Hello, and welcome to FI for Kids, a podcast about guiding your kids on the path to financial independence and extraordinary lives. I'm your host, Dominic Delacqua. Our guest today is Shelley Miles, the CEO of the Singleton Foundation for Financial Literacy and Entrepreneurship. Shelley has led entertainment and technology businesses, including Disney Interactive and Disney Records and Music. She was a founder of the Pasadena Ronald McDonald House and has served on several nonprofit boards. Today, we're going to discuss the mission of the Singleton Foundation and do an overview of their fantastic programs, all of which are available to anyone totally free. So, welcome, Shelley, and thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, Dominic, thanks so much for having me here today. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to let you talk about everything that the Singleton Foundation is doing because what you guys are doing is really cool. So, the dream of the foundation is financial freedom for all Americans, the American dream, basically, right? So, being able to have the knowledge and the resources to create and live the life that you want for yourself and your family. And to get there, you have dual goals of building financial literacy and nurturing entrepreneurship. So, can you tell us about why those two goals and how they overlap?
Yeah, so we really, when I was growing up, my dad always said, you need to be able to stand on your own 2 feet when you grow up. And those are two of the things you really have to have. So we like to talk about financial competence. So more than financial literacy, we want people to not only know what things are, but we want them to be able to do them and to be able to do them skillfully and with confidence. And at the same time, having an entrepreneurial mindset is really important because that's what lets you look into the future, to be thinking about plans, to have perseverance, to be able to deal with setbacks and pivot and really be in charge of your life as though your life is your business.
Mm.
So you really need both sides, and we view them as two sides of the same coin of standing on your own 2 feet.
So, can you talk a little bit about some of the statistics behind financial literacy? I mean, I'm familiar with some things, but there was some stuff I learned from the website. I watched the TED Talk from one of the founders, and it was interesting to see some of the millennials that they had interviewed on there, and they had no idea what a credit score was. These were, kids in college and knew really very little or nothing about budgeting. So, what can you tell us about that?
Roughly half the US population doesn't know, can't even answer three basic financial questions. So they haven't received the education. We know that people under 25 are one of the fastest growing groups filing bankruptcy,
Mm.
which is pretty tough. And like 80% of Americans would have trouble meeting a $1,000 emergency. And so those are pretty scary things. And then when you look at on the entrepreneurial side, while we've started to see new business filings going up since the pandemic, it was down like half.
Mm.
Businesses starting. So we hear all about these big, exciting tech businesses, but the businesses that are the heart of our communities, these are the businesses that make things, give us robust communities. And when you look at the future, jobs are changing, with AI and all these other technology things happening. People have to be prepared to pivot because I read a statistic a few years ago that 85% of the jobs that will exist in 2030 haven't even been invented yet.
Wow.
So we have to be prepared to grow and change and keep managing our lives and gaining the skills we need to be able to have the kinds of lives we'd like to have.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in order to help people get there, the Singleton Foundation has a pretty unique approach. You've really tapped into the power of storytelling and entertainment. So, talk to us about why you've taken that approach and how you think it's helpful.
So there's a few reasons. So we all know that as kids, we learn by playing.
Mhm.
Playing is how we learn. And as adults, we still learn things the best when we're enjoying what we're doing. And we know that people walk around looking at their phones like this. And we also know that there's a lot of great entertainment and the production values of what you see coming at you on your phone, whether it's through advertising or entertainment, is high. So how do you grab someone's attention and make them want to know? And we thought with telling stories and with high quality entertainment that could compete with what's on those phones, we could get people's attention. And then we could use the power of storytelling. How have people communicated knowledge since the beginning of time? Way back, sitting around a campfire, it's understanding the stories and why things are. And so we decided to combine those things and make something that you would choose yourself. If you say the words financial literacy to someone, chances are their eyes will roll back in their heads and they'll pass out from boredom, right?
Hmm.
Um, if you tell someone that you're going to tell them a story about a couple's relationship and what's going on in the relationship, and it just also happens to be about their financial journey, which one would you choose to watch?
Right, right. So then let's talk about some of your programs. So you have four main programs. And since we're talking about story, do you want to start by talking about the Million Stories program?
Sure. So Million Stories is a free digital channel. We have lots of bite-sized entertainment. We feature celebrities as well as real people's stories. Um, and we've got, I think we have around 300 episodes now, and we reach a lot of people. You can find us on all the socials. But we tell stories about all kinds of things. We have everything from how do you pick yourself up and deal with failure and learn from that in a series called Faceplant. We have series like Heartbroke, which is about couples and money, where we follow couples at different stages in their relationships, pair them up with a fee-only certified financial planner and life coach, and follow them and see how they did. We really want people to be able to relate to the stories and also relate to the people. A really fun series we did this last year is Your World on Money. And we did the finance couch where we plopped a couch in the middle of a campus, college campus, and let students come up and talk to a financial expert and ask their questions and get answers that are relevant. So we really try to create stories that are accessible and fun and entertaining. We have shows about entrepreneurship. We have B School, which is what you didn't learn in business school, or if you didn't go, and they're the real problems that people had to solve in their businesses and what they learned. We have things like Ramen Profitable, which is when you're at the very beginning of a business and how are you going to make enough money to be able to afford ramen?
Hmm.
So there's a wide variety of shows. There's really something for everyone.
Well, and I was looking on there and I watched some of the shows, and you've got close to 30 original series, and they're all short. I mean, so I'd say the most of them are 10 minutes or less, right? Each episode. But you really do have a lot of variety. There's a cooking show on there, like how to eat well, but on a budget. You've got what is the one? George Goes Everywhere, which
Oh,
is
that's one of my favorites about how to travel and enjoy a great weekend somewhere for under $100.
yeah, yeah, which is great, right? If you're, and again, if you are at the point and you've gotten to where you're tracking your money and you're trying to sort of live on a budget, but you still want to have a life, right? And this is very important in the FI world. So you're trying to maximize your savings so you have more to invest to reach your financial independence number sooner, right? So the more you can invest more quickly, the sooner that money can grow for you. But you don't want to not have a life at the same time. And so these things like George Goes Everywhere, where he can go and have a great time in a different city on $100. Those things can be really useful. The cooking show, and then all the entrepreneurship stuff, right? Because the other
I love
side,
that cooking
go ahead.
show. I love that cooking show because what's more fun than eating?
Hmm. Sure.
Getting to make great food and finding out that, it doesn't take a lot of money to make great meals and then
Right.
have a great evening enjoying it with your friends or the people important that are important to you. It's
Absolutely. Yeah.
joy.
Well, and again, then you can have a meaningful life doing meaningful things that doesn't involve spending a lot of money, either going out all the time for drinks or buying new toys. I mean, so again, those are very important aspects to the FI movement, which is you have to know what you really value. And you give a great example. So eating and sharing that food with other people and having that socialization, you can do all those things that really are the value of those things and do them in a more affordable way. So then you have more money left over to invest. Or if you do have that entrepreneurial spirit, then that lets you actually do two things, right? It gives you money that you can then have to fund your business startup. And also those conversations with people, especially if you've got people from different walks of life, that's how innovation happens, right? You get these
Right.
ideas from different people outside of the group that you're involved in. And that's where that perspective really, like, oh, that's where the light bulbs come on. So it just, so many things play into that. That's really great. And you've got, what else is on there? There's a show about entrepreneurs that have an interest in animals.
Oh, yeah.
What's
And that's a really fun show for parents to watch with kids.
hmm.
Because really the idea is people love pets and love animals, and there are people that have created businesses out of their love for animals and come up with all kinds of fun ideas about what animals need. And the idea is to show you that if you have something that you're interested in and spend time at, and you have an idea, that having a business of your own is a real possibility. And you can do that if that's in you and if that's what you want to do.
Hmm.
And even if it's not what you want to do, taking that mindset of being a problem solver and looking for what the problems are, that helps you whether you're working with someone else who maybe started a business or in a bigger company or even in your everyday life. How do you
Yeah,
solve
well,
problems in your community?
oh yeah, absolutely. Well, right, sure. I mean, right, we haven't talked a lot about the nonprofit world, but that's a great point. So you can apply those things not just to, making money for yourself, but helping your community. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's great. And with the entrepreneurship thing, I mean, you mentioned before this idea of people tend to think of, oh, the big tech startups and businesses that go crazy, but so much of small business and entrepreneurship in the United States and really across the world are small businesses. And they're all kinds of things, right? There are people that have animal businesses. There are people that have plumbing businesses or the electricians
I
or a
love people that
restaurant.
have bakeries. Those are
Yeah.
my favorite.
So there's all those things, and all those things help drive the economy and they help people move themselves forward. And then we're back to that American dream idea of creating a life that you want for yourself. So since we're talking about entrepreneurship, let's talk about, you want to talk about Venture Valley or Slingshot?
Oh boy, I want to talk about all of them, but so I'm going to talk about Venture Valley first.
Okay.
So when we got started with Venture Valley, and Venture Valley is a really fun, fast-paced video game. And in the video game, you get to be the CEO of your own business and you get to run it and compete with your friends and find out what works. And the idea is to outbusiness your friends. Um, and it's so much fun. We designed it with the hope that anyone could imagine what it would be like to run their own business, no matter who you are, and find out you can be successful at it and it could be fun. And the sneaky part about it is you learn a lot about business when you're playing
Hmm.
because you're making financial decisions, you're finding out what happens. Life happens, a skunk might have walked into your coffee shop and all your customers ran out, or, or maybe you picked the right playlist and everybody in the community came. And so there's a lot of things that you can see. The thing we don't tell people is after they've played a while, they understand concepts like cash flow,
Hmm.
supply and demand, pricing, quality, all these kinds of decisions that you make. But it's a lot of fun. And then you can see how the profits from your business can flow into your personal life.
Yeah.
And so we've been doing something really fun with Venture Valley. We've started doing tournaments
Oh,
at
great.
schools, both universities. We just did a big tournament in Boston. We had MIT and Harvard and Boston University and Northeastern and all these different organization schools playing together. And then we've also done this in high schools where we've had eighth and ninth graders competing against each other and having a great time. And I'm really curious to see what happens when the kids play against the adults and see who wins
Hmm.
because one of our best players is only 13.
That's the way of things, right? That's the way of the future. That's really great though, because I know that there are more and more video game tournaments, and there's I know there's thinking out there that video games, if that's all kids are doing, that's problematic, and there's some validity to that. But there's also, with so many video games, there's a strategic element to those, and kids
Yeah.
are learning a lot of things that they don't even necessarily realize that they're learning. So then we're back to your idea of play, and we learn by play, which is, you guys have deliberately set up Venture Valley to be that, right? A learning platform that's
Really,
based on play.
yeah, it's really interesting. We designed Venture Valley to be an appealing, fun video game designed by a video game designer that's worked on John Madden football and Sonic the Hedgehog and all these things,
Mm-hmm.
and it put high quality learning under the hood, vetted by numerous universities. And we did that because there's a lot of research that shows like how do you learn? So, there's learning when people just talk at you, there's learning what you read and see, and that's all great. But when you're learning by doing and experiencing and getting to repeat over and over again in a non-risk situation, there's like a 90% retention rate of that learning. And so the act of doing it is really important, and it happens to be an awful lot of fun.
Yeah, well, I think it gets to this idea of learning things. The retention is higher to some extent, I think, because the repetition is so important. It's the practice element, right? So if you're a musician, right, you practice all the time. If you practice the martial arts, well, it's you practice, right? You're always working on it because there's always refinements and improvements to make. And that same thing is true with learning financial skills. And if you're able to do that in a game, it makes it a lot more sense. And again, then you're back to you're just having fun. You don't even necessarily need to be thinking about that you're learning things, but you are.
Yeah, that's a really great point about the practice. And we deliberately designed Venture Valley so it would be so much fun that you would choose it yourself out of the App Store.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Great. That's really cool. Okay. Well, since we're on entrepreneurship, let's talk about Slingshot.
So Slingshot is a pretty amazing program. And, the name is not a coincidence. It's about getting launched. But the idea behind Slingshot is every idea usually starts with a problem that you want to solve. And it takes you through the ideation beginning of starting a business and helps you get that first business idea down and helps you create your first business plan. We have a new version of Slingshot out called Slingshot AI, and it uses the power of AI to help guide you along that beginning part of your business, helping guide you as to what questions you want to ask, and what do you do next? Helping you make your business feel real by generating logos and business names for you while you're putting your ideas down, and even going out and doing some of the market research for you so you can have a sense of what is the market like for this business in the place I want to start it? What are some other businesses around that are doing similar things? And really guiding you along the way to make it pretty quick and easy and take some of the dread getting started.
Sure. And so, how have the results been with that? Are people then taking that and using that information and expanding on it to actually start some businesses, or what have you been able to track with that?
So it's been out there. It's fairly new. We've seen it in a lot of universities, and it's been the backbone for a lot of pitch competitions.
Oh,
And we've
sure.
actually worked with the MIT Lemelson people on their Inventeen program, where they have teenagers that go out and solve problems in their community, and then they use it to put the business plan together and understand how they might really bring their business to life. And we've had a few people, well, it's interesting, Venture Valley and Slingshot, that have in Venture Valley, one guy said what he learned helped him get his business funded. And in Slingshot, we're seeing people being able to go out and start getting some seed money or friends and family money and start to bring their businesses to life because it guides you through and helps you know what it is you have to do next.
Well, and I would imagine helps clarify what your actual purpose is, right? So one of the things that can be so intimidating if you have an idea and then you want to try and develop that into some sort of actionable process is where do you start? And then it can be pretty amorphous in your head. And, you've really got to start to hone that and clarify it and really make your message clear and establish your goals, because you can't start asking for seed money if you don't have a lot of those things clear in your own head, right? Because people are going to ask questions.
Where do you find them? How are you going to price it? What is,
Yeah.
who are, and importantly, to the point you made earlier, who are the people that you know that can help you along the way?
Yeah.
Being able to share your idea and finding out by talking to other people how it might best be executed. And, and Slingshot's also a really interesting tool for younger people because it's a really great critical thinking
Mm.
program because it's guiding you, asking you a lot of questions. And at the end of it, you end up with this great looking presentation that you can share with people. And so it gives you an opportunity to talk. So we've seen it used somewhat in some schools to be able to help kids think through problems,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
even though it was created to help people get their businesses going.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's all
And, and,
really
and within
fantastic.
a business, it's really cool too, because how many times have you've seen a problem at where you work and gone, oh man, how do we solve this? And then you come up with an idea. Well, how do you get that together to present internally? Well, if you go through this process, it will really help you think it through quickly.
Oh, wow. I hadn't even thought of that as an application. That's really great.
And
Yeah.
so it
So,
kind of tries to remove a lot of the barriers that make people count themselves out and think, oh, no, this isn't for me.
yeah. Yeah. Well, sure. I mean, that's great. So even someone who doesn't maybe they're not a risk taker enough to want to sort of be an entrepreneur, but they like solving problems. They may care about the company that they're at. They see that there's a need in order to do something better, or an opportunity to move into an area that they maybe haven't been in, or solve a problem, like I said. And then if Slingshot would help them put all that together, if they don't have that experience of trying to clarify things and put together a plan and do some market research to figure out how all this would work, that's really great. I
And just
that's
imagine if you were lucky enough to be the hiring manager of a bunch of employees that are coming to you with solutions to problems.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and with some data and research and organization behind it. I mean, so right, so then because I think sometimes with organizations, people will have suggestions and there might be some good ideas in there, but everyone's busy and it can just be overwhelming because who's going to take that on? But if they've already been able to do a lot of that legwork by using Slingshot, right, that guides them along the process, then it's easier for that management person to say yes, and then let this person, because then it lets that person, even if they don't want to go out on their own at some point, it also makes them more valuable to the company and gives them more opportunities there, which again is going to benefit their finances and hopefully their quality of life as they move forward. And we're back to that dream of people creating this life that they want. So that's great.
Yeah, so that's why we created Slingshot and we're very, very excited. And the first time I saw it with some of the new functionality, it really took my breath away.
Yeah, cool. So before I forget, and I'll put all this in the show notes for everyone, but so there are multiple websites. So you can, if you go to singletonfoundation.org, that's the
This-
main Singleton Foundation website. And you can find links for all of these programs there. And each program has its own website. So
yeah.
it's millionstories.com, right?
Millionstories.com, venturevalleygame.com, slingshot.io, and groovemoney.org. And we can't forget to talk about Groove.
No, I wasn't. I just wanted to get
So
in the
cool.
website stuff before we talked about Groove, because I've been playing around with Groove a little bit, and that's really cool too. So tell us about Groove. It's kind of like if anyone's done it uses a little bit of I see some cognitive behavioral therapy elements in there, and it's almost like it reminded me a little bit of Noom, right? So Noom is kind of a cognitive behavioral thing for if you're trying to understand or manage your relationship with food and eating, and this is similar-ish in terms of managing your relationship with money. At least that's one of my early takeaways. So go
You
ahead.
hit you hit it right on the head. So one of the reasons we created Groove is, we did a lot of research and saw like piles and piles of, financial education stuff that nobody ever reads. And we
Mm,
and it's boring. People think it's complicated. People have weird feelings about money.
yeah.
And and we were using some really good quality educational stuff, and we found that people weren't finishing and doing the work that they needed to do to make it their own. And we're very focused on how we impact people's lives. So
Hmm.
everything we do, we have to be able to measure the impact of and see that. And the more we delved into what would we replace this other stuff with, we thought, well, okay, we need people to actually do it. We don't want them to read about it and think they know it. We want them to practice it. We wanted them to grow good financial habits. And you
Sure.
talked about Noom, and that's why we reached out to the research department and the researchers at Duke University in their financial behavioral science department
Hmm.
in their common sense lab to help us think about that. The other thing we knew is that money is very tied up with emotions and
Yes.
your mental state.
Mhm.
And so if you look at the statistics on divorce and suicidal ideation, the overlap between financial problems and how that affects people is horrendous.
Yeah.
Is very it's very problematic. And so we were very concerned not only with habit building, but with how people felt and relate to money. And everybody has a different money personality. And by money personality, what I really mean is your emotional relationship with money. So depending on where you came from, the experiences you had, the experiences your family had, that's all going to impact how you relate to money.
Hmm.
And all of the money personalities are right. So we spend time getting to know your money personality so we can present information to you that will be relevant at the right time and get you moving in the direction that you want to move in. And so, besides being a habit building and emotional relationship program, it's also a goal setting program. And to
Yeah.
help you set goals that you can achieve and see the progress. So, if you can only save $5 at a time and you get in the habit of
Yes.
saving the $5, you can grow that. And then we give you a glimpse into the future. So if you do these things, let's say you're setting a retirement goal, you can see what that might look like when it's time for you to retire and make adjustments. So we try to provide an atmosphere to help you be successful and to take away, some of the icky feelings people might have. I had a friend, well, I still have her. She happens to be an actor, and she is 40, and her husband hadn't saved any money for the
Mm.
future.
Hmm.
And when we were talking, she told me that she tried all these different things, but she said, I already knew I wasn't saving and I should be. She
Right.
said, it just made me feel bad, so I didn't want to do it. So we wanted to remove those barriers and make Groove to be a very welcoming, safe place where you can start to build those habits and feel good about it and feel good about your success and your progress. So when you said felt very behavioral sciencey to you, you were right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's a good thing, right? I mean, I think, it's I hadn't thought before about the relationship or the similarities, I guess, between how people relate to money and how they relate to food. I mean, there's a couple episodes that we had about some similarities between pursuing your financial goals and exercise goals. I see that connection, but the food one hadn't clicked to me. But right after spending some time on Groove, it was like, oh, sure, of course, it makes sense because people have complicated relationships with food because it's not just most people don't eat just for sustenance. It's, well, back to what we talked about before, right? The cooking show, and it's social, and food is so many things, and so is money. And so being able to address that, especially for people who have a complicated relationship with money for whatever reason, I think is so important. And it starts actually with the app starts with doing a short quiz to sort of help determine your financial personality, and then how it proceeds through the steps after that, and the information that it's giving you is sort of tailored to your financial personality, which again I think is really great. I think that's
Also where you are in life. If
yeah,
if you're a college student, your savings goal might be spring break
right,
or get a car or something like that. And if you're a single mom trying to feed your family, your goals might be very different. So we want you to be able to achieve the goals that will help you get in the right financial space and create really healthy habits and a healthy relationship. And one of the other things we think about in Groove is what's important in your life to you?
yeah,
Why are you doing this? So some people want to provide a better future for their family. Some people want to gain financial freedom sooner and financial independence sooner. But some people want to spend their life volunteering and giving to charities.
yeah.
And so we try to understand like what are your underlying life goals to be able to help remind you why you're doing this.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so important. And again, so important in the FI way of thinking, right? Which is because FI it's about, and you've got to understand some basic money things, right? And develop some good financial habits. But just as importantly, if not more so, you have to understand yourself and know what you value. So you can decide what you're going to spend money on so that you're still having a life that you enjoy, and what you don't really need to spend money on because it doesn't really bring you that much value. So you can't really move towards a life that you really want to live. You can't really have your version of the American dream without knowing who you are and what you value. And that's different for everybody, right? I mean, then it kind of gets into, it's almost a Joseph Campbell sort of thing, and it's the hero's journey, and everyone's got to figure out their own path. Because if you're
Right.
following what you think you're supposed to do, it's not your path, and you're not really going to be happy. So and so, right, that you have these tools to help people explore and do those things, I think is really just so cool.
Yeah. Well, one of the really cool things, and Groove is in its early days, we just introduced it at a conference for the first time a little over a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
But we did a study with University of Oregon and we found some wonderful things. We found like over 70% of the students that worked with it were saying that it was helping them understand and achieve their goals
Oh,
and
great.
start to build habits. We saw practical application of that where in a short period of time, we saw real savings and reduction of debt going on. And the financial peer counselors at the school were telling us that before the kids would come in and not know what to ask because they didn't have enough knowledge around a subject,
Mm-hmm.
so they couldn't formulate questions. And now instead of, you know, do you have any questions? No, all of a sudden there were a lot of detailed questions that were practical questions that showed that they gained understanding.
Yeah, great.
His group is filled with all the great short form content we have from Million Stories, as well as articles and other kinds of content and games, because we know that people enter and learn in different ways, and we
Yeah,
wanted to be able to provide as much of that as we could. So
yeah,
we're really, really excited about it.
yeah. I think it's great.
Well, everything we do in the foundation is kind of trying to build a holistic
Yeah,
picture. And so the different programs invite different people in different ways. And we also work through a lot of partners. And so we use our work with our partners so that they know the people they work with and serve.
oh,
And so we
sure.
want them to have the resources to be able to do that more effectively. Um, to make things more fun,
Mhm.
um, and to reach a broader audience with it. So our goals are to make real changes in people's lives and to do it at scale.
Oh,
And
yeah, sure.
we're having a lot of fun doing that. God, what are we up to 300 million views of our content now?
Yeah, wow. Great.
And we did that because we want people to have access to this information. Some people were lucky enough to learn it at home or at
Mm.
school. And a lot of us didn't, or maybe it wasn't the right time in our lives, or we didn't even know we were supposed to.
Yeah.
but your mission to be able to help people achieve financial independence and really focus on what's important is what we're trying to do, and we're trying to do it through our programs.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you have so much stuff. And again, it's totally free for everyone. So they can go to the website and access the different programs, access things on their phones, and it's all free.
It's all free, and we've taken it to where people are. So you can find us on TikTok, you can find us on YouTube, you can find us on our sites. And a lot of people find us through other programs that they belong to. Some people experience our videos in their classrooms.
Mm.
Some people experience it through other programs they're in that they might use our programs to make theirs a little more fun. So there's lots of ways we're happy to share. We love to partner with other people.
So what else would you have? Are there any programs that you wanted to talk about that we didn't cover?
I think we covered, our four basic consumer facing programs.
Yeah.
We do a couple of other things. We have a CEO prize that we do every 18 months to honor a living CEO who's been exemplary in a lot of ways. And that goes back to our entrepreneurial goal.
Hmm.
Um, you know how in the arts and sciences they honor people that are excellent beyond belief,
Yeah.
and it's inspiring.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lessons to learn. So we do that. And we also work on a program with Pepperdine called Most Fundable Companies, which is an educational program they put out that provide feedback to people that have started businesses and are trying to get ready for funding, and finding out what you really need to do that.
Mm.
And so it's a really neat educational program that we participate in as well.
Yeah. What else would you want people to know about the foundation, or how can they be supportive if they want to help support the foundation in some way?
Well, we always love people that want to help support us. So, you can contact us if it just allows us to do more programs. But really what we want people to do is participate. So all you have to, it's not hard. It shouldn't be scary. You just have to start. And, we would hope people would be willing and happy to try our programs, share them with their friends. Maybe you want to schedule instead of a book club, maybe you want to have a night where you watch a video and talk about what happened in the video and what related to you. And we also love to hear from people as to what spoke to them and what they found useful and helpful, and also what they wish there was more of, because we are constantly learning and trying to improve what we're doing. We want it to be a program that's accessible to everyone, and accessible to everyone in this big chop salad we live in.
Mm.
Uh, that's what we're trying to accomplish. We want everyone to feel like when they look at what we're doing, they feel invited in.
Yeah.
And that's really important. So, we hope people will come visit us. We invite you to play and try out our tools, and then we'd love to hear from you.
So what's the best way for people to contact you, not just to contact and ask questions, but if they want to provide feedback, what's the best way to do that?
We have a contact form on our website, and just write to us. We respond to everything.
Oh, great. Okay. Good to
Um,
know.
we just love to hear, and that's part of our learning loop. So it's very important. We do impact studies on our shows. We, measure how people felt before they watch the show and after they watch the show. We're we're all about impact, because the purpose of this is to get people to a place where they feel financially confident
Yeah.
because they're competent.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Confident because they're competent. I like that. We've got a couple of teenagers at home. And so I've been playing around with Groove to kind of get a sense for it. And so I want to then have them start to use it and get their feedback and see what they
Well, I
think. And
would
I
love
haven't thought
to
about
do
trying
this.
to watch a couple of the Million Stories videos together, but we should try that.
Are they young teenagers or older teenagers?
16 and 13.
So there's a series, God, drawing a blank on the name, but it's all about kids and teenagers that have started businesses.
Oh,
And
oh yeah. Oh, one of the Million Stories programs. Yeah. I
yeah,
saw that on there. I can't remember the name either.
Kids Biz, no, Biz Kids.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's really fun. And the stories are fun. I'm inspired by them. I love the guy that created a business making skateboards fit high school lockers.
Oh, sure. Sure. No, that's just so cool. That's the thing, right? Is there's so many little problems out there that can be solved, and people have ideas all the time, and so many people don't follow through on those. And so, any of the applications that the Singleton Foundation has that can help them move forward on those, even if they don't ever go anywhere, they still learn things from those that then they might take and apply to something else down the line. And so there's just so much benefit to all that you're doing. So it's really great.
Well, it's very exciting to come to work every day. There's always something new and exciting going on.
Mm-hmm. So if anybody listening today was going to take away one thing from the episode, what would it be?
That you can do this. You can solve problems, look forward, have an entrepreneurial way of looking at the world, and you can be good at finance, and it doesn't have to be that complex. Even though it's a complex subject, you can learn the basics and find out what you need to do and do it.
Yeah, and I would so heartily second all of that. I mean, I for a long time I was not good with my money, and I learned things later in life. I wish that's why I started FI for Kids, because I don't know how many times I said, "Man, I wish I had known this stuff when I was younger." And so then there you go, right? Solving a problem, or I hope to, or at least help anyway. Yeah, but it's not, and it can be overwhelming and daunting at first, and you don't want to sort of get into those things. But once you start to learn a little bit, right? And so things like Groove that kind of sort of help draw you in and make it more comfortable and make it easier, each little step forward that you take, it gets easier. And once you start to get control of your money, then it really becomes, then you want to do it, because now you start to see how much it benefits you and it feels good. And so then you want to do more. So
Yeah, it takes a lot of stress off your life. Um, you know, Dr. Lusardi, Anna Maria Lusardi, who was like kind of the mother of financial literacy movement in the United States,
mhm.
she always calls it her happiness course.
Mm-hmm.
Learn how to make the decisions that will give you a happier life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because we're so tied to money with so many things, whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter. That's the reality. And so being able to manage it and control it and make it work for you really does put you in a much better position to sort of be happy and provide so many more opportunities that then you can pursue those things in life that really have meaning for you and that are going to bring you real joy.
And give you the resources to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Any final thoughts?
Man, Dominic, I think you covered it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Shelley, for coming on and giving us an overview. I hope that you or someone from the foundation will be willing to come back on in the future, and we could maybe dive into some of the programs more specifically, which do some episodes focused on the particular programs. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Dominic, and I wish everybody a happy 2025, and this is the time to get started.
Great, great. And again, I will put all of the information in the show notes. It'll also be on our website at fiforkids.com. So if anyone wants to go visit the Singleton Foundation or look at any of the programs, you can find it there. So thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the FI for Kids podcast. Please support the show by hitting subscribe and receive new episodes every Thursday. The intro and exit music this episode are courtesy of Douglas Cameron. As always, you can find links to the FI for Kids music in the show notes. Thanks again, and we'll talk next week.